Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be what happens when men over pursue from a woman's perspective. Well, I've got an email. This is from a woman, and she said about a year ago, her husband of 12 years was killed in a hit and run accident. And so recently she started dating this guy. Everything seemed pretty good, but he quickly came on too strong, called too much, texted too much, was a little too controlling, a little too forceful. And then she went to YouTube and the internet and eventually came across my videos because she was trying to figure out why is this guy who on paper seems awesome, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? And what can I tell him to get through to break it off? So what I really liked about this email is you get to see that all the things I talk about all the time and 3% man, especially over pursuing. What's interesting is one of the Instagram reels that I did that did so well was talking about this exact type of thing. It's like what happens when men over pursue. They call too much, they text too much, the woman tends to back off. They call and text more, and the best thing to do is for the guy to back off. And of course, if you go read the comments on this video, it's got over 800 and some thousand views on it at this point. A lot of the women are in there, it should be 50-50. This is not true. Don't listen to this guy. But yet you look in the comments and all the men are going, yeah, this is exactly my experience when I did exactly that. So the women are telling the guys to over pursue. And then you got all these guys in the comments like, well, I've done that in the past. And every single time, exactly what Corey says is what happens. And so here you get a woman who understands that and she's being honest. And it's really nice of her to share this from her perspective, especially after going through such a traumatic event of losing her husband 12 years ago. So with that said, let's go through her email. She says, hi, Corey. My husband of 12 years was killed nearly a year ago, June 20th in 2022 in a hit-and-run incident. Well, I'm sorry about your loss. That really sucks. She says, I recently decided to be receptive to getting to know men with the potential of it turning into more. Remember, women fall in love slowly over time. And they have the attitude of, hey, notice what she says here. I decided to be receptive to getting to know men with the potential of turning it into more. How many times have you guys heard me say women go out with the attitude of, hey, let's see what happens. Is this guy good for me? Do I like him? Do we connect well? And yet us guys are visual creatures. If she's hot and we like her, that's it. We're already thinking about weddings and what our kids are going to look like and that kind of thing. We get all carried away on our visual emotions and this fantasy that we project in our head. Meanwhile, women are just like, because they take a lot longer to fall in love than us guys do. She says, due to my loss and what I've been through, it's even more important that a man let me set the pace and match my energy at most. As I talk about in 3% Man, you got to let women come to you at their pace. And if you don't, you're going to cause them to start to feel like they're losing their freedom and they're going to bounce on you. She says, so I met a guy about 6 weeks ago and was very open about what I needed. So she's even telling him. But you got to remember, this is a guy like the rest of us has been conditioned by society to be a certain way and show up a certain way, which is we got to lock her down before somebody else comes along and rips her off. And that's what pretty much the archetype you see in all the movies and TV shows. Unfortunately, he came on way too strong and fast while claiming he's glad we were taking it slow. Probably in his mind, he thought he was taking it slow, but he's driven by his emotions and he's driven by fear. And this has probably happened every time he dated somebody he really liked. And it still hasn't clicked with him. He bought me anything I so much as mentioned and was over the top with compliments. Yeah, the other thing is what happens with guys that are like this, they're way over the top with their compliments and everything else, is once they get comfortable in a relationship and the honeymoon period is over, if they even get that far, is that they back off and they don't do anything hardly at all. They stop dating and courting her, they don't make her feel heard and understood, and eventually the woman loses all attraction and interest and respect for him. And so his behavior is just not natural. Like she said, it's over the top. In other words, he's trying to make up for what he lacks inside, which is confidence. His feelings and expression of them rapidly grew stronger with no concern for how I was feeling. So here he is projecting his high interest onto her and only paying attention to that. At one point, it became obvious he put me on a pedestal and seemingly projected his ideal onto me. Yeah, he fell in love with the fantasy of who he wanted you to be, or who he hoped you would be. Meanwhile, he didn't get any feedback, take any feedback, and quite frankly, didn't care. Because these folks, I gotta lock her down, or else I'm gonna lose her. Again, when you see this thousands and thousands of times from the time you're a little boy to an adult, where you better chase after that girl and lock her down, or else you're gonna lose her, you literally chase her right out of your life, which is what's going on here. He had a lot of good qualities, and I felt there was potential, so I let him know a few times he was doing too much, and it was overwhelming. He said he would back off, but he didn't. No self-control. Again, that's the opposite of confidence. He's out of control. Feminine energy is chaos, and so he's acting very effeminate. He kept trying to help me unsolicited, buy things that I didn't ask for, offer to come to my house to help out with whatever. She says, I never even let him know where I lived. She said, I began to feel pressured or obligated to match his energy and reciprocate in ways I just wasn't feeling. Remember the Thich Nhat Hanh quote. You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free. And so she wasn't feeling free, so she's going to want to bounce, which is obviously ultimately what's going to happen. I also felt as though he was trying to buy or bribe me into being with him, and I didn't like it. So he's making up for what he feels he lacks inside by giving gifts and things of that nature. A bribe for sex in a relationship. Again, this is right out of the book. As time went on, he gave off more and more of a vibe of insecurity, jealousy, possessiveness, and needing to control and force the situation. It felt like he was in a hurry to trap and cage me before I realized something. Again, this is what TV and the movies show. But you go back to stuff made in the 40s and the 50s, it's like the exact opposite. Guys are like, the men are always going way slower than the women are. The women are thinking wedding bells and babies and white picket fences and all that stuff. And the guy's like, I don't want to settle down, I'm good. And eventually they reluctantly do in the end of the movie, obviously. But these days, it's the exact opposite. Women are the stoic ones going, nah, I'm good. But of course, the guy in the movie, the guy wins him over by, in essence, acting like a stalker. But in real life, you can see how it's turning your stomach. So yesterday, I called and broke it off with him, which he didn't take well at all. See, it's a good thing she never gave out her address and let him come to her house. It's really super important, the vibe that you're giving off. That's why you got to make women feel safe and comfortable. And she did not feel safe and comfortable because this guy was just not a centered dude. So she says, before doing that, I needed to find the right words to explain what was bothering me. And that's when I found your videos. Thank you so much for putting this content out because what you're telling guys is spot on. Thank you for putting words to what I was feeling and experiencing. It really helped me decide what I wanted to do and what to say when I decided to break it off with the guy. I decided to keep it to the main issue. She said I had several more by the time I had processed everything. He asked if I still wanted to be friends, and I said no. I knew he'd keep trying to move things where he wanted to go ASAP. So he was thinking, okay, all right, I'll just try to fly. I'll be your friend, and then I'll fly under the radar, and then the pressure it'll never stop. Because he doesn't want to be friends. He wants a relationship. But he's willing to take the demotion because he doesn't love, value, and respect himself. Or his time for that matter. She says, so all of this is to say you helped me as a woman better understand and explain what I want in the dating stage and what will cause me to run. Thank you, Jessica. Well, Jessica, again, sorry for your loss, and I appreciate you writing in because there's going to be guys who are going to read that letter and they're going to go, okay, it's going to click for them. And they're going to think about all the times they went out with girls and treated them the same way this guy treated you, and they got blown off for exactly the same reasons. It's as predictable as the sun coming up in the east and setting in the west. So there you have it, guys. You got it from a woman's perspective. What happens when you over pursue? And go check out at Coach Corey Wayne on my Instagram. It's also actually on YouTube Shorts. So if you're watching this on YouTube, that video is also up there. It's like what happens when men over pursue, I think is the title of it. I think it's like 30, 40 seconds long. And it, like I said, the one on Instagram is the one that's got almost 800 something, 850,000, whatever it is, views at this point. It's got a shit ton of comments from men and women, everybody arguing, and it's very informative. So if you got a question or challenge you'd like to get my help, go to understandingrelationships.com, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and book a coaching session with yours truly. Until next time, I will talk to you soon.